Back at the very start of February, I had the idea that I wanted to get back to focusing on audience participation, where the roots of the channel really began. So many of my early videos were based on viewer requests. I did one of these recently and it was my most popular video in a long time, so I think it's really important to listen to what you want to see. My idea was based around the suggestions for watches to look at that I get on almost every video that I post. I wanted to act on that, but clearly this channel is a hobby for me. It costs me money to run, and what I get back from YouTube is way less than what I put in. So I set a budget and put every single suggestion on my channel at the time below that budget onto a spinning wheel. In that video, I asked for more suggestions to add and outlined the idea. I'd spin the wheel, then buy and review whatever it landed on. I thought it sounded like a cool idea, but I completely underestimated the amount of work it would require to put together. You can kind of tell that from the fact that you're getting this video in mid-April. Collating the list alone was quite the task, and I'm still convinced there are some mistakes and some duplicates on there despite my best efforts. Not only that, but the spinning wheels online could not handle the number of names on the list, so I had to code my own. As I said, there is a reason why this took so long. Anyway, the video is here, so let me show you my one and only spin of the wheel and let's see what it lands on. Where to start with this? Well, let's start with the Welly, I guess. What on earth is a Welly Merck? Honestly, I don't know. I've tried to look online and it's still as clear as mud. For the sake of the video, I've made some assumptions, but that is literally all they are, speculations. If you know more, please feel free to correct me in the comments section below. The name, in truth, doesn't really seem to mean anything at all. The brand operates out of China and has an international office in Hong Kong. A number of Far Eastern brands have names that aren't exactly authentic, so I would assume that the Merck part of the name is a vague attempt at sounding European, with the Merck Group being a big pharmaceutical company in Germany. As for Welly, literally no idea. I think the brand have realised that the name sounds silly to Westerners now though, as outside of the website still being wellymerck.com, all of the branding and discussion on the website now calls the company WM Watch, with the About Us page saying that it stands for wrist moment, whatever that means. That doesn't make sense either, but is cheap as far as a rebrand goes, as there is no change in initials. Remember, all of this is complete guesswork on my part. Something else that I did notice about the website while I was there is the way that the watches are named and indeed advertised. When you scroll over the WM Watch product section, it just comes up with a list of codes that don't really tell you anything about the pieces themselves. I've seen that before on the San Martin page, and I'm not sure if it's a case of copycat behavior, if there is some kind of nomenclature expectation that I'm not familiar with in the Far East, or if there is a connection between the two brands. Again, if you know more, let me know in the comments. My experience with my Welly Merck has maybe asked so many more questions than it's actually answered. The model featured here is the WM194, or to give the product its full stated name, the WM Watch 42mm, NH35 sapphire crystal glass with AR coating, 20 bar, glass bezel men's automatic mechanical watch. For the sake of brevity in the video, from this point on, I'll just be calling it the 194 then. Not being particularly familiar with the brand at all before this video, the first thing I thought of when I saw this was my Yema Urban Flygraph. They're very similar in terms of design language. While in the end I had a bit of nightmare with Yema and their customer service, I did like the watch enough to put my hand in my pocket and buy it. At around a quarter of the asking price of the Yema, with a very similar style and an exhibition case back that the Flygraph lacks, there's a relatively strong value proposition on offer here. Looking back at that forename from earlier, we also see that the watch boasts premium features like sapphire crystal with AR undercoating and a movement from a recognised manufacturer in the NH35 from Seiko. One thing that I really should have captured footage of, but unfortunately didn't, was the packaging the watch arrived in. This came not only with a compact travel case, but also a cleaning cloth and one of the best bracelet adjustment tools I've ever had. Genuinely better than products I've paid over $20 for in the past, so some nice extra value on offer there. There are 3 versions of the watch available in terms of colorways: a blue and orange version with a blue bezel, a black and orange version with a black bezel, and the one that I purchased, which is very similar, black and orange with an orange bezel. All 3 options are perfectly viable in my opinion, and my first impression of the 194 was a positive one. The finishing is excellent. I would say close to that of the aforementioned San Martin, if you want a point of comparison, but a Welly Merck is cheaper, with this model costing me just under $110 during a sale on AliExpress. On closer inspection though, there are a few more subtle and indeed less subtle giveaways that this is not a premium product. The most obvious of which is the logo, or lack thereof, engraved on the back of the printed clasp. Instead, we just get the capitalized letters WM in a generic serif font. This makes no sense to me. The brand logo is literally engraved onto the crown. I don't really understand why you'd establish a house style on some parts of the product and then ignore it on others, especially in such a large and obvious manner. My other issue with the watch is the handset. You won't necessarily notice from afar, but up close and personal, the finishing of the hands just isn't that good. The orange edgework is quite raised and shiny, giving a much cheaper look than the rest of the watch. It also doesn't look like it quite colour matches perfectly as a result. When you take into consideration the price point though, I don't think this is a big issue in the grand scheme of things, but it is certainly noticeable as part of the wearing experience. As for me personally, I chose not to keep this piece after the review. 42mm in diameter, 48mm lug to lug and 12.3mm thick is just too chunky for my tastes. It would be a bit more forgivable if it had a complication to the movement like a chronograph or GMT to explain that bulk, but it doesn't. That sizing and the 316L stainless steel construction makes this quite hefty weight-wise too, coming in at 156 grams if all the links are used. For those with larger wrists though, I see no reason why any of this would be an important consideration. So if you like the coloration, the angular aesthetic, and you can live with the issues relating to the smaller details that I've discussed, it's all round a pretty good value piece that I would have no problem recommending to others. In terms of the brand themselves, the more I've looked into them, the more I'm convinced that this is a homage of that exact Yema. They have a lot of models advertised that are quite clearly homages, but they're not just Daytonas, Submariners and Speedmasters. There are homages to much lesser known models like a Boulder, the Christopher Ward Moonphase, and things from Sega Design. Not that I'm a big fan of homages, but I've seen far worse offerings, and the build quality, presentation and value for money proposition with a Welly Merck was pretty good in my experience. I wouldn't rule out buying another model from them in future. I'd just like to finish by saying thank you to whoever commented the watch featured in the first place, and an apology to everyone who left a suggestion but didn't get picked out. Obviously there is a financial implication on me making a video like this, and I had no clue just how long it would take to set up when I initially came up with the idea. However, now that everything is in place, I have a working wheel, I have a curated list, and I could spin the wheel again. I'll only do that if people like this idea though. But failing that, I'd love to hear from you about other ways I could engage with you. Fostering some discussion and giving something back to my audience was what this idea was all about after all. Let's discuss in the comments section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the watch too. As ever, thank you for your time. If you've enjoyed what you've seen or found it informative, consider dropping the video a like. and subscribing for more content like this in future.